These are my audience. Good afternoon. Today I will be giving a speech on why I think quarantine and travel restrictions are appropriate responses regarding COVID-19. A lot of us never thought we would go through a whole pandemic where wearing a face mask is the new normal and hand sanitizers are a must. According to resources such as Cochrane Database of Systematic Reviews, an article on quarantine and isolation, a journal called COVID-19, The Law and Limits of Quarantine, CDC website on how quarantine, and a Johns Hopkins website on No, COVID is not the flu, have all informed me on why quarantine and travel restrictions are appropriate. Coronavirus disease 2019 is a rapidly emerging disease classified as a pandemic by the World Health Organization, WHO for short. To support the WHO or HWO with their recommendations on quarantine, they conducted a rapid review on the effectiveness of quarantine during severe coronavirus outbreaks. According to Cochrane Database of Systematic Reviews, early implementations of quarantine, combining quarantine with other public health measures, is important to ensure effectiveness. 28 COVID-19 studies simulated outbreaks in Algeria, China, Canada, Italy, Nepal, the UK and USA, Singapore, South Korea, and on the cruise ship Diamond Princess and in general population. Despite limited evidence, all the studies found to be quarantined to be important in reducing the number of people infected and the number of deaths. According to the CDC, isolation and quarantine helps protect the public by preventing exposure to people who have or may have the contagious disease. Isolation separates sick people with the contagious disease like COVID-19 and from people who are not sick. Quarantine separates and restricts the movement of people who were exposed to a contagious disease to see if they become sick. U.S. quarantine stations located at ports of entry and land border crossings use these public health practices as a part of comprehensive quarantine system that serves to limit the introduction of infections, diseases into the United States and to prevent their spread. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, informs travel increases your chances of getting and spreading COVID-19. Staying home is the best way to prevent yourself and others. Of course, since one of the CDC rules is a requirement to prevent COVID is to stay 6 feet apart, you can't physically do that when you're in an airplane or on a bus, or any type of transportation like a subway that makes you be close to someone. Therefore, airports, bus stations, train stations, and rest stops are all places travelers can be exposed to the virus through respiratory droplets or on surfaces. These are also places where it can be hard to keep your distance. In general, the longer you are around a person with COVID-19, even if they do not have symptoms, the more likely you are to get infected. Lastly, the Johns Hopkins website, an article called No, COVID is not the flu. A lot of people think that the COVID-19 isn't that serious because the flu has killed, supposedly that the flu has killed many more people than coronavirus, which is very not true. Andrew Picoz, a PhD, says it can be hard to differentiate the two based on symptoms alone, but large numbers of people and increased rates of severe disease and death set COVID-19 apart from seasonal influenza. Picot, a leading virologist who works on both diseases, breaks down key differences between COVID-19 and influenza to show why this pandemic is so critically and catastrophically dangerous. Since December 2019, COVID-19 has killed more people in the US than influenza has in the last 2 years. So what makes COVID-19 so particularly dangerous? First, little pre-existing immunity to the SARS-CoV-2 means that virtually everyone is susceptible to infection. Second, we don't have good treatments or vaccines to treat it. Third, COVID-19 causes more severe diseases than influenza. A lot of people have not been focusing on the deaths, but more so of the ones who have recovered at home from a mild case. But we must treat COVID like it is dangerous and killing a lot of people in order to take this serious. Quarantines and travel bans are often the first response against new infectious diseases. Flattening the curve, slowing the spread of COVID-19 across space and time is critically crucial. Of course, we always come across people who believe COVID-19 isn't that life-threatening, and we should try going back to the way things were before COVID struck. But in order for things to go back to normal, we must stay home and quarantine when needed. If you feel sick, stay home. If flying isn't an essential to your work, we must all do our part in flattening the curve by keeping our distance and wearing a mask. In conclusion, I believe quarantine and travel restrictions are important in order to stop the spread of COVID-19 because of all the facts I just stated. Thank you.